Heroes are men and women who ensure people are protected, respected, represented, and remembered. Today we'll meet a group of medical professionals who have created a way for more people to have access to medical care. As we take a trip on the bay, we'll meet some people who represent all of us when they take responsibility for others. We'll recognize men who took to the skies to defend us, and we'll salute others who rushed into a tragedy to protect us. And we'll remember 6 million men and women whose lives were taken just because of who they were. I'm Chris Anderson. Stay with us for this look at Hometown Heroes. Can a lighthouse be a hero? Perhaps not, although they have been protecting seagoing men and women for generations. I'm here with Jessica Collins, who is the site coordinator for the Cape Henry Lighthouse. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Chris.
Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of this historical site?
Absolutely. So Cape Henry in itself is a very historically significant area. In 1607, we had our first landing here, so we're able to trace the history of Cape Henry over 400 years back. So in 1607, after 4 months at sea, 104 English settlers arrived here and they named this area Cape Henry. And that is after James I's eldest son, Henry, who was Prince of England at the time. When they arrived here, they brought a wooden cross with them. They marked this area, stayed here for about 2 weeks, and then eventually settled English first settlement of Jamestown on North American continent. So we have the first landing here, which pretty much marks the beginning of the American colonial history, but we can also mark the end of the colonial history here as well. In 1781, September 5th, we have the Battle of the Capes that was fought here in the Chesapeake Bay. It's called the Battle of the Capes because we are, of course, Cape Henry, and across the bay is our brother Cape, Cape Charles, which is Henry's second brother, who was named after by the English. So 1781, Admiral de Grasse of the French fleet, as the French, of course, fought on the American side to help us in our quest of independence, they fought a battle against the British here, and it was the largest, most decisive naval battle fought during the Revolutionary War. This battle pretty much sealed the American victory of the independence. So with de Grasse winning that battle for the French and for the Americans, Cornwallis was ended up trapped at Yorktown. So he was not able to get relief from the British aid and more troops to continue the attack and the war on the Revolutionary War. So after the French blockaded the Chesapeake Bay during this battle, he pretty much had to surrender, and every general thereafter surrendered, and that ended the American Revolutionary War. So we have first landing here, 1607, we have the Battle of the Capes, 1781, and then, of course, 1792, we have the building of America's first lighthouse. So we say it's America's first lighthouse because it was the first lighthouse authorized by the United States. Under our Constitution, it was the first lighthouse built. It was the first public works project of the United States. So the first thing that the U.S. ever built was our Cape Henry Lighthouse. It was authorized by George Washington himself and overseen by Alexander Hamilton, who was our first Secretary of Treasury. We're the fourth oldest lighthouse in the country, and the 3 older ones were built when we were still colonies. So that is why we're the first lighthouse built by the U.S. government.
So am I correct in understanding that the lighthouse also has a prominent place in the Virginia Beach City Seal?
Absolutely. We are right in the middle of the Virginia Beach City Seal.
We've been seeing a lot of that seal lately, and often it's adorned with a black ribbon of remembrance. On May 31st, we were shaken by the tragic mass shooting in Virginia Beach. Police officers responded within 2 minutes, followed by firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs shortly after. Everything changed forever in that moment, but one thing remains true.
We will not be defined by evil. We will be defined by the good deeds of the people of Virginia Beach that are embracing all the people adversely affected by this. We not only send out support to them by providing a lot of counseling services and embracing them, but we also have to think about the people that were wounded, that were in the hospital, and we also have to think about the many employees that were in the building at the time of this tragedy, who are also going to need our help from now on. This is not going to be a short-term fix. This is going to be a lifelong fix where we're going to take care of these folks and realize and accommodate the needs that they're going to have, probably from now on. Continue to embrace them. Never forget. This is a lifelong tragedy that is going to remain in people's minds in perpetuity. Let the community continue to embrace these people. Let them know that they're loved, they're valued, and they're respected.
Virginia Beach demonstrates its strength by caring for one another and leaning upon each other. And when we return, we'll meet a group of medical professionals who care for patients in unique circumstances. Stay with us. Enjoy this blistering summer day here at Cape Henry Lookout. Have you ever thought about how you would get your children's school entrance physical exams if you didn't have health care? What do you do about health care if you're homeless, underprivileged, or underinsured? Well, there's a group of volunteers and medical students who've created a nonprofit primary care medical clinic. It's mobile, and it's popping up in scheduled places around your area. And they're offering health care at no cost.
Romanian Group is a primary care mobile medical clinic that travels throughout Hampton Roads to provide comprehensive services to all peoples in need.
Dr. Blanco came to me at my office looking to build a clinic. So I said that I could do that for her. We built a clinic in 2016. We started talking about the ministry and what I was doing, and I told her that she could possibly give back to the community also, and she should think about that because she comes in contact with so many professionals throughout her day.
We have 6 directors, and I'm the executive director, so I pretty much do all the coordination. We do concentrate on the homeless throughout Hampton Roads, but we pretty much treat anybody who wants to be seen. We don't require anybody to have a form of identification, which most medical clinics do, and we don't require any proof of residency because that would be very difficult for anyone who's homeless. We also treat patients who don't have insurance. There are multiple people throughout Hampton Roads that have 2-3 jobs, hardworking, but they are not offered, because they are part-time jobs, insurance. So they come to us and we survey and we assess them and treat them for pretty much family practice medical needs.
Another thing we do is that we will do school physicals for kids and get them in so that they can start school on time with everybody else. Of course, it's important for them to follow up for pediatric primary care with their regular provider, but we want to make sure that they're getting into schools on time and not missing out.
The inception of Promethean Group started with Dr. Parent and I. We both are faculty at South University, and a lot of our students do require to have the hours to treat. A lot of the students, however, don't have the opportunity to treat vulnerable populations or work intercollaboratively.
We'll pull an occupational therapy assistant student over with us, physical therapy, likewise BSN students with them, to let them see exactly what their role is, which we oftentimes work alongside each other in healthcare, but we don't necessarily work as well integrative together. So I really am excited that the students are able to have that opportunity and they enjoy it very much as well.
The process that Promethean Group offers for each patient is when they first walk in, there's usually a greeter. They will help to filter the patient to where they need to go. The patient gets registered, and we follow all the rules for HIPAA to protect each patient's privacy. Once they're registered, they go to intake and speak with a provider as well as a BSN student, and they get their past medical history taken. And then they move to vitals with a BSN faculty and BSN students where they get their vitals done. Once they're there, they go to the exam area. We have a 7-bed unit that are private and available to pretty much be anywhere. Once they're done being seen, they have prescriptions written for them. We don't do any controlled substances. I work with one pharmacy. Those prescriptions at the end of the clinic are taken by the chaplain. They will be filled, and our director of ministry, which is Chaplain Ote, will pay for all of the prescriptions and be delivered next day. That's how we really provide a holistic experience. So that's what we want for everyone.
What an amazing clinic. It operates through the hard work of its students, donors, and volunteers. Another organization doing great things through the work of its volunteers is the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. This year they organized the 31st annual Clean the Bay Day. 3,500 people gathered and collected more than 22 tons of trash from the bay and its tributaries. And this year the Omnicat came back from Illinois to help in a very special way.
Clean the Bay Day is an annual event that Chesapeake Bay Foundation hosts to get people out to shorelines and parks in the state of Virginia to clean up litter. It's important to clean up litter because if we don't clean it up, it ends up in our waterways and it can interfere with the wildlife, it can interfere with economics in the area. Litter's just purely bad.
You get in these watershed areas, you get trash coming down the drainage channels, being blown off the dockside and getting into the water. Plastics can break down, polystyrenes can break into small pieces, and then it can get in the food chain. So we don't want to be eating plastic.
2 years ago, actually, Stuart called me over at Chesapeake Bay Foundation and he said to me, I have a boat that I think you might be interested in seeing. And he told me about it over the phone and he sent me some pictures. He told me it was a special boat that collects litter and that he would be willing to loan us the boat to help at Clean the Bay Day.
This boat is a 22-foot boat. It's got a 50 horsepower outboard on the back and it can be operated by one man, which is really cool. And there's very little maintenance to do on this boat. There's no hydraulic systems, there's no conveyor belts. So it is a very effective, low maintenance craft. So the boat can go around any sort of waterways like this, you know, inland protected waterways, and you've got this basket. So when you're ready, you just lower the basket into the water and you open the front and all the water comes through it and it filters the plastic and whatever else, and it's retained in there. And then once you filled it up, basically you can rake it out or you can lift the whole basket out and just dump it. With my job, I've been very fortunate to travel around the world, and in places where there isn't the same level of awareness and education, you see people just throwing plastic bags everywhere, and it's very disheartening. I was in Vietnam last year, and I was very fortunate to go to a place called Ha Long Bay, which is a World Heritage Site. So you've got these wonderful mountains coming out of the water. So I managed to do a tour around this really iconic, beautiful place, and there's plastic bags in the water. And it's really disheartening, and it makes me want to do more. Nobody wants to sit on the beach and see a pallet float by. That's just not savory. So it's not just me, I think everybody here is becoming more aware, have been aware for a long time, and it's just great to see everybody coming out and doing this. I was talking to one of the watermen earlier, and he just works around all these wharfs and docks, and he does all the inspections, and he was saying that he sees a bag, he picks it out of the water. So these people are my heroes.
Our heroes do many jobs and serve in many ways, and some still wear a uniform. Recently, the Marines, the Army, and the Navy conducted joint logistics training Resolute Sun right here at Fort Story. come back, we'll meet some heroes in aviation. The cradle of marine aviation is in Quantico, Virginia. But in 1912, the first Marine aviator trained at Naval Aviation Camp Annapolis. But by 1917, the first Marine Air Company was commissioned. This year marks the 100th anniversary since the Marine Corps Air Facility was established in Quantico.
In the earliest days, it was mostly barrage balloons and artillery spotting. However, the air facility is not actually created until after the Marines come back from World War I. In 1919, they established the air facility because they learned, hey, we can do dive bombing, we can do smoke screens, we can do all sorts of stuff.
Quantico really kind of became the cradle of marine aviation because although marine aviation started in 1912, it really did not start to get advancement and recognition as a usable component for the Marine Corps until marine aviation came to Quantico in 1919. And then in the 20s and 30s, that's really what drove the Marine Corps to recognize how important marine aviation is and how it could integrate with the ground forces to create a combined arms effect.
But that is the epitome of what Marine aviators are at that time, daring to get into aircraft like this one that is mostly canvas, glue, and wood, and the heaviest thing being the engine. No parachutes, no brakes, no armament. These guys are the bravest of the brave. I equate them with the guys who are willing to go across the wheat fields at Belleau Wood in the harrowing machine gun fire that the Germans were throwing. It's just as dangerous. If it weren't for these kinds of aviators, you would not have aviation in the Marine Corps. So yes, we're talking about the time period of these earlier aircraft, but when you bring it forward into the late 40s, where are the helicopters? Where are they being tested? They're being tested here at Quantico.
After World War II, HMX-1 Presidential Helicopter Squadron was activated. They're the ones who tested and evaluated helicopters. They developed vertical envelopment doctrine for how helicopters would later be used in Korea and Vietnam, all the way up to today where they're testing the VH-92 to be the latest presidential support vehicle.
So when the expansion was going on at the air facility, they took down a lot of the original hangars, but they didn't take them all down. They left at least one of the original hangars as a visible, visceral reminder of the history of aviation, of the air facility, and the Marine Corps' role in it. They could have taken them all down and replaced it without a blink, but that's not what the Marine Corps does. The Marine Corps remembers its history.
The hangar that we're standing in right now, it was known as the Martin hangar because this was the hangar that they built to house the Martin torpedo bombers back in 1924. Then in 1937, they moved that hangar to its current location. All these buildings are National Historic Landmarks that need to be preserved and Marines need to be educated about so we don't lose this history.
September 5th, 1781. It's important to remember our history. You know, we need to know who came before us and how they accomplished what we might take for granted. And here's a simple analogy. If we forgot about the wheel, we might spend a lot of time reinventing it. It's an important tool and it should not be forgotten. You know, many moments in history are just like that. A lesson has been learned and it should not be forgotten, or else we'll have to relearn it. That's why survivors of the Holocaust want us to remember that it happened, so we will not repeat it.
Today we're at Fort Eustis, Virginia, where we are honoring and recognizing the National Holocaust Remembrance event.
My family, like so many desperate others at the time, had to make the dramatic decision to send their children in a safe home, away from the danger of war and most of all, the danger of being caught just because they were being Jews.
Ms. Yancey's story from start to finish connected with me because she's able to relate a personal individual experience to a traumatic event, which really allows you to understand what 6 million deaths mean When deaths are aggregated to a single figure, it's hard to truly grasp what occurred. So to hear her story allowed me to make a personal connection to that tragedy.
My dad went to North Africa to avoid the labor camp of Germany and the extermination camp. My mom stayed with two of his uncles who were also in the resistance that were tortured, and they said yes, they would take two little girls, which is very brave. And for that, being Jewish, and for my father disobeying, they were hunting us. They were hunting my mom, and they were hunting my sister-in-law, just out of punishment. Everything that you don't do according to their wish had to be punished. Not only you kill, but you change your life forever. So it's difficult for me. I don't have any memory of my parents before the war. What you have to remember is that most of us survivors, children survivors, would say the same thing about their parents. And it's sad because that's the image we keep, and yet it's not the real image of who they are or who they were. And for instance, I look at them, their wedding picture or their engagement picture, and I saw the smile and the happiness, and then you look at after the war, and you can see that how much they have changed. And sometimes I wonder, what would I do with my children if I was that young and had to take that quick decision of leaving my kid with people I've never met? We were a very unified family, but we wouldn't talk about it. And now it's one of the reasons why I start. I'm at the very beginning of talking about it.
It is a dangerous error to think that the Holocaust was just done by Nazi criminal. It happened, and we just saw again in the media that it still happened through thousands of years of hatred and discrimination.
These events are important because they allow us to remember the past, to remember the traumatic events that occurred in our history, so that we can be aware of seeing these things beginning to slow boil in current day, so that we as individuals can interrupt them, prevent them, and then when it is time to be able to take action against it.
I think the first thing is that we have to stop hating. We have to go within us and just say, why are we like that? Is it really a way of life to hate? Is it really a way of life to discriminate? Is it really a way of life? Because it takes in you a strength that you could transform and use someplace else. Rather than destroy, you can build.
From history keepers to police officers and other first responders. From people who clean the bay to members of our military and volunteers who provide health care. We appreciate the dedication and service of our hometown heroes. And until next time, let me take this opportunity to say thank you.